Okay, so I just did a video about a whole bunch of grooming misconceptions that I hear commonly in my grooming shop, and I really feel the need to vent and go over some things that really are my pet peeves of grooming and general dog ownership. So the first one I'm going to start with happened today, and it takes a lot for me to bite my tongue and smile and nod and just go on with it because it's really not a big deal. But there is no such thing as a teacup insert breed. There's no such thing as a teacup poodle. There's no such thing as a teacup Yorkie. There's no such thing as a teacup Chihuahua, Maltese, anything like that. There's no such thing. A lot of groomers out there are realizing that people are looking to get smaller dogs. Smaller dogs usually equate to smaller vet bills, smaller food, or smaller amounts of food, smaller equipment. Things that are smaller usually are cheaper. But what a lot of people don't understand is that teacups are usually just dwarf dogs from a litter, so you're essentially just getting the runt. Now, that's all fine and dandy, except for what people don't understand is that a lot of the times there's a reason that these dogs are small. It's not just because they're small, it's because there is a genetic defect within the genes, obviously genetic, that results in the dog not growing to a proper size. This can cause a lot of problems down the road. So I get very frustrated when I see people who are, boasting about the coveted teacup Chihuahua, because really there's no such thing. Another thing that I hear a lot, you would be floored at how many people say this to me, is that they have a purebred blank doodle or poo or whatever you want to call it. Purebred dogs. Okay, a purebred dog does not mean that you know the parents of the dogs. So let's say with colors. I use this example a lot, and it kind of helps people to understand where I'm getting here. Let's say you're a painter, and you're trying to paint a picture, and you need the color purple. So you take the color red, and you take the color blue, and you put it together. That makes purple. It does not make red blue. It does not make blue purple. It does not make blue red. It does not make red or whatever you want to say. It makes purple. Just purple. Plain old purple. Okay? The same goes for dogs who have been mixed together. If you take a purebred golden retriever and you mix it with a purebred poodle, you have a mixed breed dog. Yes, you can call it all you like, the golden doodle, but it's still a mixed breed dog. It does not mean it's purebred because the mother was purebred and the father was purebred. Now you have a hybrid. Now, I have absolutely no problem with golden doodles, cockapoos, morkies, you name it. I think that, you know what, a dog's a dog. And I do understand that people are trying to make the larger dogs a little bit more accessible to people with allergies. The idea behind the golden doodle was that by mixing the poodle with the golden retriever, you get something that's a little bit more mellow. Poodles tend to be very bouncy. Maybe a little bit more fetchy, maybe a little bit more attentive, but maybe they would be a little bit more, they'd be a little easier on the allergy sufferer. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but what people don't understand is that's not generally how genetics work. Just because you have a hypoallergenic dog and you're breeding it with something that's not, doesn't mean that all of the puppies are going to be hypoallergenic. And that's the kind of drawback with what they're calling designer dogs. Like I said, I've got no problem with hybrids and with mixed breed dogs. I actually grew up with one. I grew up with a Lab Retriever cross, and she was the best dog we've ever owned. I would say that 90% of the dogs that come into my shop are mixed breed dogs. But I find it very frustrating that people feel the need to make their dog sound better by saying that it's a golden doodle instead of just saying it's a poodle lab cross or a golden lab cross. So please understand that mixing a purebred dog with a purebred dog of a different breed does not make a purebred dog. Purebred means that both of the parents are CKC or AKC registered, meaning that both of their parents whose parents were of the same breed. You put both of those together, now you have purebred dogs. Now, I know a lot of people out there are saying to me, well, what about, what if my dog isn't registered? Now, that's fine and dandy. I've got 3 unregistered purebred dogs. But when I tell people, they ask me, well, what is he? He's a Bichon Frise. Okay, well, is he purebred? He's a single breed. And what I mean by that is that both of his parents were Bichon Frises, but I can't prove that they were purebred. So he is of a single breed. Huge pet peeve of mine. Seriously, people, it's okay to say it's a golden doodle, but please don't tell me it's a purebred golden doodle. And as far as I had somebody tell me that they got their purebred golden doodle from a breeder who spent years and years of selective breeding to get this F1, which is first generation, golden doodle, and I was totally stunned, because first generation means that you had a golden retriever and a poodle. How did you spend years and years and years of selective breeding of golden doodles if you put together a golden retriever and a poodle? And that's what, anyway, so big pet peeve of mine is the purebred golden doodle. Another thing about this whole hybrid thing is that a lot of people are getting into cockapoos and sheepoos and whatever kind of other poo you want, and there's a huge drawback to this that people are totally seem to be ignoring, and that is that just about every hypoallergenic dog there is out there requires a tremendous amount of grooming. Poodles, Maltese, Shih Tzus, what else are there? Yorkshire Terriers. They all have hair that does not stop growing. Which means that if you mix, Vinny, shut up. If you mix, let's say, a Bichon with something that stops growing, let's say, with a Pomeranian, you might get a dog whose hair will continuously grow, which is fine with me. I mean, not even just as a groomer, but okay, fine, that's what you want. Yes, you got a hypoallergenic dog, but what you don't realize is there is a price that you have to pay for that, and that price is going to come out of the groomers. These dogs are not wash and wear dogs, and one of my biggest frustrations when I see these dogs is that people will go out and get, say, a Bichon, and then they'll ask me to shave them short. And what I don't understand is if you were going to pay $1,000 for a Bichon because it was hypoallergenic, why the heck are you shaving it down? You might as well have gone to the pound and found any run-of-the-mill little dog and shaved it down instead of, going to a breeder and buying one when one of them could have been saved and you would have gotten the same result. It's huge frustrating for me, because people are under this impression that they're like the most fantastic dogs on the planet. But I have golden doodles that come in, and labradoodles, and all other kinds of doodles that come in that are a total mess, because people get these as puppies and they're nice and cute, and then oh my god, the dog's a year and a half old and has never seen a groomer, and his mats are so packed and tight that I have to shave them down pretty much to the skin to get them off. So please do your research before you get a dog like this. Yes, hypoallergenic breeds are amazing, especially for allergy sufferers, but remember the other side of that. If you're just going to bring the dog in to get shaved, then why don't you get a Pomeranian, or go to the pound and get something that might be mixed? Just remember that just because it's a cockapoo doesn't mean that it's hypoallergenic. So huge pet peeve of mine is, these dogs do actually require some grooming. Another thing concerning the matted dog, I am not the fairy godmother. I am not Santa Claus. I am not the Tooth Fairy. I do not own a magic wand. I really wish I did. If I did, it would make my life a lot easier. That being said, I cannot magically remove the mats from your dog because you neglected to bring him to the shop. Now, what I mean by this, now, the odd mat is not a life or death situation. I do lots of dogs who live out in the bush. Like I said, I live in a hunting community. I can probably spit from my side of town to the next, and as sick as that sounds, and it would be no big deal. Like, the population here is maybe 1,000, including all the dogs. I know that dogs live out in the bush and can get really matted and gross, but that's not an excuse to let your dog get so matted that I don't even know where to start. Like I said, I am not going to stand there and pull on your poor dog's coat for the next 3 or 4 hours because of your negligence. If you wanted the coat to stay nice and long, then you need to bring the dog in regularly. Vinny, who is no longer at my side, is a Bichon Frise. He belongs to my mother. And Vinny, we have in the past had him shaved shorter. I don't really like it. My mom found she didn't really like it. She likes him a little bit more fuzzy. So we are experimenting, I guess, a little bit right now to see how long we can keep his coat so that it doesn't mat. Because my mom has very bad hands. She has what's called CMT. So she can't hold on to the brush and brush him, and I'm definitely not here all day to do it. So we've been experimenting with lengths to see how often he has to be groomed to prevent mats. And that's something you can discuss with your groomer, you know. Maybe you have a cockapoo or a poodle or a Bichon, and you like the long length, but you brought the dog in and it was a little bit too matted. Okay, you've got to find a length that's good for you and good for the dog. It has to go both ways. Just because, you like the length, if you're not going to put the time into the length, then don't make the dog suffer. So, talk to your groomer and say, how often should I bring the dog back in? How close together are your bookings? If I find that the dog's getting a little long and maybe developing some mats, how many weeks do I have before I can get the dog in, before he gets awful? So please keep that in mind when you get, especially curly-coated breeds. Oh, they're awful for matting. That these dogs are not wash and wear dogs. We're not talking, a golden retriever or a lab or not a cocker spaniel, like a Springer spaniel, whose hair will eventually stop growing. We're talking a dog who can get some serious damage from this, and it's really hard to explain to people what this feels like. I've seen dogs and cats so matted that the mats will start at their front foot on the bottom, travel all the way down their body, and connect to the bottom of their feet behind them. And you gotta remember how much those dogs can't move. I saw a dog once. He was brought to the Northern College. He was groomed at a vet clinic. It was a very unfortunate event that happened. The dog had mats that were so big, they covered over his eyes, or one eye in particular. And when they were trying to shave the eye off, his eye underneath was so infected that they ended up having to remove it. So please don't let your dog get like that. Bring it to the groomer before it gets to that point. And please don't tell your groomer, I know I've neglected to groom my dog for the last 6 months, but I'd like you to perform a miracle and remove all the mats from my dog, but I don't want it to cost more than $30, because I will take the dog and agree with you and then shave the dog bald. Well, not bald, but I'll shave the mats off, and if you come back to me and say, that's not what I told you, I'm going to tell you that it was that or me calling the SPCA, which I have never had to do. Most people you can explain, this is really a bad situation. But please keep that in mind. So my pet peeves for the day. I might come back with some more. It's nice to rant sometimes because, geez, these dogs are the ones that suffer. I'm not concerned about how heavy my pocketbook is when I leave. I'm concerned about what lies on my conscience when I go to bed. So I would much rather take 15 minutes out of my day and explain this all to anybody who might watch, even if it's one person, because it really is something important to me. And please tell your friends this. Please stand up for dogs that are left ungroomed, or people who are irresponsible when they get dogs, because really it's not them who suffer, it's the dog.